a Bitcoin maximalist in the past. So I think I've been exploring a lot of space here in this ecosystem and for a while. So I really love the space.
This is a really good characteristic for the entrepreneur to always be in the first stage in the innovation. And I could see you. So for people is watching us, we are, as I said, at the Breakout event, and we just finished the panel talking about the NFT in Bitcoin, and it's interesting to me. I'm just thinking loud. Uh, in the past you were like a Bitcoin maximalist, and right now like you are buying the NFT in the Bitcoin. So how was this transition for you?
Oh yeah, uh, there's a lot of stories between myself as an Bitcoin maximalist and now myself at buying as someone that's buying Bitcoin NFTs, and I'm very different now. My mind is in a different space, and what I've learned is that I need to judge less what is happening and like accept what the community, what the technology is leading us in general. So I I believe that the narratives in crypto can change, and they have been changing a lot. And I think the best way to position yourself is to or you are very flexible to understand these things happening, or you stick to very basic principles. Myself, as I have this exploratory mindset, I like to try new things. So I'm more on the side of seeing, exploring what's happening right now, rather than sticking to a view. I there's nothing wrong in changing or keeping your mind in certain narratives, but myself, what works best for me is uh, to like let myself go by those new narratives that happen in space. So that's why I started um to invest in Ethereum as well after my Bitcoin maximalist phase. Then I discovered DeFi, so I get like really into DeFi at the time. Then I've heard about NFTs and started to basically find new ways to invest on the space. They were not very known projects at the time, like in 2020. And then I started buying some his historical NFTs. Then I started to create DAOs, and then I go back to the Bitcoin network as a collector of Bitcoin NFTs, which is really um, it's really funny to be honest. I'm going back to Bitcoin ecosystem because of NFTs.
That's amazing, and it's very interesting to see. We always have a face, and for me, it's very clear to see the transformations. So yeah, interesting because we are talking about the very innovative ecosystem, and some people normally prefer to be more in the traditional space. Even the people talking about blockchain, thinking about the traditional way and the values and things like that. And I could at least I feel uh, even even you are in the blockchain market, you always prefer to be to keep you with the innovative mind. So you always be in with the new technology. In the same case is NFT in the Bitcoin. When it started and you listened the first time, what did you think about?
Oh, I was intrigued by it, to be honest. It sounded strange for someone that always saw Bitcoin as a store of value or uh, uh, like a monetary from a monetary angle. It was strange to even conceptualize what was happening. So what I did was I'm a very technical person, so I went to the documentation about ordinals and then read it through it, tried to understand what was happening there. And then when I could really get to know what was being proposed by Casey, I understood that it was just a layer, a convention on how you see the Bitcoin network. So yeah, that was awesome because I found it very creative uh, at the time, and then I I started to embrace it. Like, okay, this is a new way for us to explore this protocol that we don't have control of what the community will think about it and how they will interact with it, but from a pure speculative way, it's a great experiment. So that's why I started doing my explorations on Bitcoin NFTs, and then I I I end up thinking that there was some potential there to really become something bigger than just an experiment. And then I start buying some of the NFTs there. It's uh it's very unclear where this is gonna lead right now. I think that there's not a not a way to come back and undo what's been done, and that will really continue to exist. And this way of seeing the Bitcoin network, it's a new way, and we cannot ignore it. But I don't know if it's gonna have like a lot of adoption as like other networks, like Ethereum network. But I think it's worth like keeping eyes on it at least because it's a social experiment, and we never know where social experiments will lead to. So that's my take on it right now.
Interesting perspective. And let's have a look back about your story. You said you are a technical person. Could you tell me how was like your first college and things like that? Just to people in the house to know a little more about how the everything started.
Okay, so I'm a computer scientist, so um, I'm I am and I've always been like very keen on mathematics and like um, I like numbers in general. I have some good relationship with other fields of knowledge as well, but I really like the more scientific view of things and data and numbers. And when I saw the blockchain and all the technology that comes with it, I saw an opportunity of bringing this technical side of mine and build upon it on a more, I don't know, efficient way in order to create solutions that people can use. So uh, I also have some knowledge about business because I've always been an entrepreneur and built companies. So I see this like a very the ecosystem as well is a very rich ground for us to build things. And that's why when I first saw Bitcoin, uh, although I've the angle that I was looking at, it was very technical. I was thinking about services and things that could build in on top of it. And the technical part helped me to understand what are the limits that I can do and how those limits can be explored as services, as products for the final user. So yeah, I I've graduated, I built some companies, and then when I have a very good, fairly good exit in one of those companies, I started to invest in crypto, and then started to build actually some services and companies over it.
It's interesting. Interesting. So your first company, did you start it? It was not in the blockchain space, right?
No,
And
no, it was Web 2 purely.
okay, so probably it was a long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. I'm older than you think.
Okay. Okay. So tell me more about what you are building right now in the Web3 space. I could see in your t-shirt the BR Punk. So
Oh yeah, yeah. This is a CryptoPunk, and this represents one of my projects that I'm like working right now. it's an experimental project. It's a side project that is becoming more and more part of my daily job. So it's a basically it's a centralized persona. It's a attempt to create a influencer or a content creator that's not a one person. It's a community. So this community is responsible for creating, curating, and distributing content as this character called Gearpunk. So anyone can submit a content, and if this content is approved by community, this content is then published, and then the submitter uh, that sent us this content receives tokens. That is the governance token of the Gearpunk. So it's a way for us to try to create a this pseudonymous character that have a lot of influence on the space and to build authority, to be honest, and then explore this authority in many ways in the future. We're not really sure how we are gonna explore it, but we know that there's a lot of opportunities for us to do that. So it's one more time experimental, and uh, there's no pathways created. It's all new, and that makes us very excited about it because at the end of the day, all the people that are working on this project are learning and get in touch with what is possible or not what is possible using like merging these two words that it's the content creator and the creator economy and the blockchain. So it's very exciting, to be honest.
Yeah, you are having a connection between creator economy and the blockchain space. So
Yeah.
it's totally interesting. I already read a lot of things from the BR Punk. I'm learning a lot more in the Instagram, but I know the main social media is Twitter, like as all the blockchain things. But I think it's very interesting because all the content is very educative. And for the Brazilian culture, I think it's one of the most important projects about the creator economy because you can creator economy about blockchain, right? Because we have a lot of influencers, and I feel BR Punk put most of the influence together, and everyone can become the new influencer about that. But it's not exactly about to be influenced, have influence in the space. It's more about to have someone educated the market, and the only influence person is the crypto NFT. The
Yeah. 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 What we are trying to do here is slightly different from other influencers are doing. That's because we are trying to bring the information from the center to the birth, like from the I don't know how to express it correctly, but we are trying to have a more native look from the market. So we are creating the content in a way that only a native Web3 citizen could do. And this is different from a regular influencer that they just look at the market and see what's happening or look at some concept and explain that concept from a almost an outsider point of view. It's valid as well. I think it's okay. But what we are trying to do is to create some authority and influence from a native point of view. Even if we are creating some content that is there is target to some noob or some people that are not like part of the space yet. Uh, even even in this kind of content, we think that if we have some more native content, this person will learn better and in a more profound way than just like a a more outsider point of view. So it's very difficult to understand what we're trying to do, but when you see our content, that's clear. You can like on a blink of an eye, you can see that the content that's there is being written by someone that lives the ecosystem, uh, uh, the culture of Web3. That's what we are trying to do here, and we think we can create this authority um, basically in Brazil right now, but this playbook can be played everywhere, probably in many languages. And we think that's good. Try to do that in Brazil first because there are some particularities in this market here in Brazil that allow us to explore this better and further, and then to replicate the playbook in other languages as well.
It's interesting perspective because most of the crypto company prefer to start like global, and you have a very global mind. So I'm curious just to know why did you choose Brazil as a first place to have this experiment?
Uh, because it's easier to easier and faster to try some things. We can make more mistakes. We can then create the playbooks and accelerate the playbooks in other languages. It could be a bad decision at the end of the day, but for us, it was easier to start here, and we are more comfortable to make mistakes here in Brazil first, and then explore the idea as an extension like this for other languages and countries as well. Uh, in special in Brazil, there's not the number of people that are involved in Web3 is not that big. We know that, but the uh, cultural framework that works in Brazil, it's something that we think that's the same in other countries, basically in Web3, because we understand that Web3 here in Brazil is growing as an extension of the rest of the world. So it's just a way for us to experiment all these ideas in a controlled environment, and then we think it's easy to explore other languages after like 1 or 2 or 3 months of experimentation.
Makes sense, and I'm very happy you started to do this in Brazil because like we really need this kind of things. So it's very unique. As I said, I already read a lot of the posts, and it helps me a lot. For example, what is happening in this week, the last week about the Silicon Valley Bank and all the transformation about the Circle USDC. To be honest, in my mind. I woke up on Saturday, and when I saw all the things was happening, I just thought, oh, what VR punk you are talking about now about it?
Great, great. Yeah, good to know that. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, so right now, I think that this is your second DAO, right? The first was it?
Sorry, I didn't get it.
I think you created another DAO before
Oh,
that,
yeah,
right?
okay, yeah, yeah. That's the second DAO that I co-founded. The first one was Fingerprints DAO. It's a collector DAO. It's uh, we collect art as we collect art, blockchain art, as we say. So we are an organization that started collecting autoglyphs and deathglyphs, some very high-end blue chip generative arts in the space, and then we evolved a little bit. We are kind of an ecosystem of people that collect but also commission artists, like launch new projects in partnership with artists as well. And in some ways we control some narratives of what's being done, or what's good to be uh, the, what good to be doing in the blockchain art space in general. So I'm very proud of kickstarting this project, and now it's a more decentralized project, and the community has a lot of like like responsibility on what's happening right now there.
It's interesting. And I know there are some people in this space don't truly believe about the DAO system. And I'm in front of one created too. So
Okay.
what if you could talk with this kind of people don't believe about the DAO in the practice points, what do you would you say for that people? Why do you believe so much in DAO?
Okay, yeah. Um, although I created two DAOs, I don't think DAO is the solution for a lot of things that people think that DAO is the solution. And I think that the decentralization helps a lot in some use case, and it's very bad at others. So it's a trade-off in general. So we have efficiency and decentralization, and it's very hard to have both. So from this point of view, most of companies that we know today, they will work very poorly as DAOs, because they wouldn't have the efficiency they need to compete in the market. It's very hard to take fast decisions, to have ownership of some things when you're running a DAO. On the other hand, when you have a more uh, a, an organization that is not really in a competing uh, environment, or you have some public good to develop, we have to fund some cause. I think DAOs are very good at that because they can bring communities together and work together as a whole, as a unit. And there's no rush for efficiency on those kind of organizations as well. So in case of fingerprints, we have a more hybrid model. We are a DAO, but we have a lot of ownership there. We have different groups of people that are elected to do some tasks, and they work as companies, those groups. So the DAO decides the teams, but the teams work in a very efficient way. And I see a lot of DAOs doing that as well, because when in the scope of like in the concept that when they need the efficiency, they try to have a more centralized way, but in elected centralized team. And of course, when you have some kind of organization that needs to be bootstrapped by community, DAOs are very good at that because they can bring people together, like for a cause or for uh, like some kind of proposition. I don't know, you can name it. And in this 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 bootstrap of the company or the organization, it's accelerated by the community. So I like in those situations as well. So I like DAOs as an exploration and when they're applied in the right context. And I don't think they should or could be applied to any context as like any organization. So yeah, I like the concept, but I'm very like careful about the about when or where I should like uh, support a DAO structure for an organization.
Makes sense, totally sense. And thank you for explaining all the process in the DAO. Probably you'll be very interesting for a lot of people who is watching us. For me, it was very interesting because I tried to work in the DAO last year. I worked in some DAOs, and I could see there's a lot of difference. Even is the conception is a DAO. Is difference between the Brazilian DAO, even in the Brazil space, we have difference in the DAOs, and I worked in some DAOs, international DAOs too, and I could see there's some things different too. So it's interesting to thinking about uh, the target is the same, but the way you can create is different day by day.
Yeah,
So
sure. Yeah, yeah, and there to be honest, there's a little confusion whenever people call the word DAO, and it's being used all over the place. There are organizations that don't even have a token, and they call themselves DAOs. There are organizations that do have a token, but the token is all in hands of 5 people and still called DAO. There are organizations that the token holders are thousands and they're still called DAOs. There's organizations that just do on-chain voting, the others that don't do voting at all. There's like a lot of confusion, and I'm very skeptical when people say I'm creating a DAO because we never know what's how the organization looks like. I don't know even if they have a token, if they are two people or they are 2,000 people, or they have like a purpose or not. It's hard. It's hard. So I don't really like the word DAO right now, as I didn't like the word like NFT in general because they're too brand like they're too uh general. I don't know. Uh they they lack of like a clear understanding of what they represent at the end.
Yeah, makes sense. And thinking about it, what kind of company do you think is not good to become a DAO? What kind of, yeah, what type of the company?
Okay, yeah, probably the companies that need a lot of efficiency and they have a lot of competition in general. And there's some drive that people have for profit and for decision making and a process for decision making that just don't work in a decentralized way. They can work, of course, they can work, but we'll have a lot of difficulties to compete with companies that are centralized. They can do whatever they want because the CEO wants. Sometimes it's a better decision, sometimes not a better decision. But at the end of the day, those companies that are faster and can do things in a more efficient way, that's what the market is doing, right? They're uh, creating efficiency. And whenever you create more efficiency than your competitors, you win the game. And the DAO itself is very bad at efficiency. So any company that need this kind of efficiency, I think uh, it's it's a bad take to have to be totally decentralized.
Yeah, makes total sense. Uh, and I think it was the one of the most reason people don't think DAO works is because I at least I can listen a lot of people talking things like oh it's slowly the decision and things like that and yeah I totally believe about it. It's like it is slow, but there's some kind of company. It's not important to be fast or not. I think creative companies are not thinking so much about it. Creative companies just prefer to have a really good brainstorms, and in this kind of companies, probably DAO is a good option in my opinion because you can put a lot of people together and have a good discussion about an idea.
Sure, sure. Yeah, there's some discussion about like the decisions that are made by the DAO versus the decisions that are made by a centralized entity, and sometimes the DAO, like under the hood, what's happening when a DAO decides something? It's basically the average of the entities that vote for that DAO, right? And in average, if that average tends to have like a mediocre or maybe a median performance versus like other decisions, right? And in some cases this is good, and in some cases that's not good. So uh, for instance, if you are judging someone for like a crime, for instance, it's I'm pretty sure that the median would be a very good decision, probably, right? You have like uh, a group of people that have to take a decision, and I think it's reasonable to have a decision made by the whole because it's a moral decision. There's a lot of like uh, social aspects involved on that. But in some other kind of decision, you have to have an alpha. You know, you have to have a decision that's better than average. And in this kind of decision, I prefer the centralized way. You can have uh, you can risk having a bad decision in order to have you can risk having a worse decision in order to have a better decision that's in a centralized way. So it's of course I can be wrong on all of that, as anyone can be wrong because it's something like new for everyone. And this is my general feeling about these organizations and decision making. that's happening right now on those institutions. But apart from that, apart of what I think, what I see, it's a very interesting experiment. And even though it's not efficient as a company, I think people should always try to do that because we're experimenting and understanding new ways to organize ourselves as organization, society, to experiment new angles to solve problems. So sometimes we can think a problem as a efficiency problem that in in reality it's not. It can be other kind of project, other kind of problem that can be better done as using the wisdom of the crowd, for instance. So I don't have any answers. I don't. I just have
Questions?
questions in general. But I'm very excited to be part of those questions right now.
Yeah, me too. So thank you so much for your time. Thanks so much for being the 30 Cryptalk podcast in English. I'm sure a lot of people learn it for you. I know I learned a lot of you, not just in this podcast, but in the backstage and in the panel. So thank you so much for teaching us so much about it.
Oh,
A lot of things.
my pleasure. My pleasure. Always, always. Thank you very much to to open the opportunity to me
Yeah,
to talk.
sure. And I hope you can keep going with all the investments, all the entrepreneur life. When I look for you, I always see someone is building something new. I you said about you become like you are a technical person, but I feel you are more about building person, and you when become very with process and technical. I can see a lot of people in this place, and you take the time to create the new thing, the new one. You know, I always can see this. Like, yeah, I since I met you at the blockchain here in September, the last year was 1 week before my birthday, so I remember this. You were creating you were creating things, and right now it's so good to see the beer punk and all the other things you are talking and helping people in the Brazilian market. So yeah, I think the thank you is when I say thank you, probably is about a lot of people would like to say thank you for you. So I hope you just keep going.
Oh, thank you, thank you. My pleasure. So yeah, yeah, I'm honored. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to finish the Crypt Talk, we always ask for everyone just to take a picture with us
Oh,
and to put our name in the social media and to say what did you think about this episode. So we can take a picture in 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So thank you so much, guys. I hope you like it. If you are not subscribed in this channel, please subscribe it right now and send this link, send this video for other friends in the space and people are not in the space yet. So see you in the next Crypt Talk podcast. Bye.